we go. We're live, everybody. This is really annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Spreaker, that was Chris.
That was like 15 seconds for you guys, and I think I killed my voice. That'll be my night.
I was going to say,
Sounds like
maybe
a
you should have
dying
done that at
cow.
the end of the show. That would have been a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Albert says it sounds like a dying cow. I would agree with it.
So I should channel my inner Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, is that what
We've
that
got
was?
the macho and the madness. No, it wasn't really.
I was going to say, I really thought that was the Kool-Aid Man.
I don't really have a Macho Man. That was my attempt. There's not many professional wrestlers I can impersonate other than just the arbitrary woo. Everyone loves a good woo.
All right, well.
Hell yeah, brother.
Let's just do this. Okay, should we do this? Should we?
What you talking about,
Okay.
Steven?
I'm going to do this, and speaking of Macho Man.
I'm SP from Better Podcasting, a show dedicated to help make your podcast better. And it is part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other insightful and wonderful geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Steven John Drew, and I am pleased to say SP's here this week.
I'm here, and I'm here to officially announce the show is in the crapper.
It is, just you wait. And also Chris Farrell.
My friends, I'm here to implore you to do one thing. Snap into a Slim Jim.
All right, so let me ask you this, Chris Farrell. How much did your news this week make your day?
It was the greatest news ever when we were sitting at work and one of my coworkers, who was about 12 feet away because we're practicing social distancing and there was someone in between us, goes, "Oh my God, Dr. Toilet's real." And I went, "Wait, what?" And then we laughed about Dr. Toilet for probably 10 minutes at work today because we have the maturity of about 7-year-olds at times. But I promise you, Gonna Geek viewers, I'm going to take the Dr. Toilet story very seriously when we get to it. There's not going to be any poo jokes or messing around, at least until the end of the story. I will try and get through the headline and the main details without snickering and laughing and acting like a child.
And that's
Try.
where we're about to go right now. Now, just to say, make sure everybody knows I don't play favorites here. Obviously, it's unusual for us at the beginning of the show to spend time leading up to a news point. But SP, if you want to bring a toilet story to the table in the future episode, I will absolutely introduce it the way that I just did Chris Farrell's.
Okay, I think that Chris gets all the toilet humor on this show.
No, to be fair, Suncast beat me on the GonnaGeek.com show with having a toilet story because he had the smart toilet story. What was it, a couple years back? He already beat me to the toilet headlines. So congratulations to you, Suncast, for being the first to bring a toilet story to the GonnaGeek.com show. My only hope is that I can follow in your footsteps and present something that is just as compelling and interesting.
So tell me about your story, Chris Farrell.
Oh, man. So I don't know if you guys know this. One of my favorite sitcoms is Scrubs. There's just a nice mix of juvenile humor, serious story elements. The actors all mesh off each other really well. And there was a story near the end of it when Dr. Cox goes to a conference and they're finding out about different things and equipment they could bring into the hospital. And they're introduced to Dr. Toilet, whose job is to analyze your feces and provide diagnoses and give preventative health tips. And while Dr. Kelso rather is on this trip, there is an interim chief of medicine by the name of Dr. Yan Etor, who decides to order one Dr. Toilet. And it's a punchline for this entire episode. And I remember laughing and going, man, that'd be great if there was a super smart toilet that that could tell you your health status and things like that. And guys, that time is here. We now have a Dr. Toilet. They're calling it the Magic Toilet, however.
Oh, well,
It's not Dr. Toilet, but I mean, we can call it that. I'm sure that when they do the rewatch, because Donald Faison and Zach Braff are doing a rewatch podcast for Scrubs. So I'm sure when they get to the Dr. Toilet episode, they can talk about the fact it's real now.
Is it a magic toilet because it is Doctor Strange's toilet?
I mean, it could be anyone's toilet for the right amount of money, I assume.
okay.
Gandalf the Grey's toilet?
Sure, you shall not pass, he'll tell it, and it'll pass.
So I understand that this magic toilet has pressure sensors.
It does.
What's it sensing? What pressure is it sensing?
It's sensing the pressure of you sitting on the seat before we go too far down that path.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Yes. But this is a smart toilet that, like Steven mentioned, boasts pressure sensors, but also artificial intelligence and a camera. This was unveiled by researchers as a new valuable way to keep tabs on our health. In the paper they presented, they said, we have developed a passive human health monitoring system that can be easily incorporated into a normal daily routine, requiring minimal or even no human intervention, the team behind the new toilet said in a report. Writing in the Journal of Nature Biomedical Engineering, the international team of researchers note that the previous attempts at such a toilet have been expensive and provided limited information. However, this new magic toilet system can be fitted onto existing toilets and incorporates a suite of sensors and detectors. So unlike Suncast's story where you had to buy a whole new commode, here you just strap the magic toilet pieces onto the top of your toilet and you're good to go. Now, sadly, it's not 100% without manual intervention because this toilet does include test strips that will detect telltale health markers within urine. This includes things like glucose and red blood cells, as well as capturing video recordings of your flow to spot changes that may be related to disease. This is where it gets a little creepy, the fact that there's a camera. Well, a little creepier, let me rephrase. In addition, the system incorporates a camera that takes images of the user's stool. These images are then classified using a machine learning algorithm, a type of artificial intelligence, as we all know, into different categories on the Bristol stool scale, which is something I never knew existed, that will then reflect problems such as constipation or diarrhea. Yeah, fancy stuff.
Is it the same Bristol that there's a NASCAR race in?
Or Bristol, Connecticut, where ESPN comes from? I don't know.
Yeah, is that what the Bristol scale is? It's like a sports-based thing?
Well, we'll go with that. It does have other features, though, SP, don't worry.
Oh,
in the paper, they say it was able to also collect additional information such as first stool dropping time and total seating time, which can potentially be acted on by clinicians to help to manage constipation and hemorrhoids. So they're going to know if you're a person who likes to sit on the bowl in the morning and read the news for 10 minutes before you get started during your morning constitutional. In addition to that, most inventively, as the article puts it, the team reports the system detects who is using the toilet from a fingerprint scanner on the flush handle and what they are calling, quote, anal prints, distinctive creases in the lining of the anus, which are captured by video frames. So yes, we have a new biometric. We've got finger, we've got face, we've got iris, we've got latent prints, and now we have anal prints. I couldn't help but laugh when I read this, but they legitimately said in this report that a combination of fingerprint and anal print can be used to determine who the user is. So the magic toilet, like I call Dr. Toilet, can be used by everyone in the entire house. But one thing you have to know is these strips they use for urine, you've got to put fresh ones in the toilet, and they're not really positioned well for, say, people who sit on the bowl and urinate at this point in time, because the strips are positioned on the back side of the toilet, where if you're a man and you're standing and doing your business, you'll be able to hit that target. If you're sitting, you're probably not going to be able to hit the urine strip target. But yes, there are a lot of health benefits they argue could be learned from a system like this. Now, whether it proves popular, that's another matter. There was a survey done of 300 individuals near Stanford University who were asked to rate what they thought of the proposed toilet. 30% said they felt uncomfortable with it, citing primarily privacy concerns, mostly with the anal print being the most disliked component. I don't know about you guys. I'm just shocked that nobody's comfortable with a camera sitting in the bottom of the bowl pointing straight up at their buttocks. What do you guys think? You going to try Dr. Toilet out? It's got some potential health benefits. You could know, oh, I got my report in. Oh man, I should be eating more fiber. damn, I should make sure I have more fiber so that things are coming out better and more healthy for all.
I've been staring at my camera in disbelief for about 5 minutes now because
Steven, that camera could be in the bottom of your toilet right now.
because of the fact that this is clearly an invention that some pervert made to justify his toilet cam. That's clearly the only reason you would put a camera in the toilet.
You mean it's not for anal printing?
It's absolutely not for anal printing, and this went from one of the most interesting news points to me wanting to time travel back in time and punch myself in the face for actually giving you more time at the beginning of this episode.
So in theory then, if they removed the camera component that was used to detect the formation of the stool and how well formed it is and things like that, would you be more comfortable with a system like this? Or if it was just pointed down so that it was not looking to get the so-called anal print?
No camera. Get rid of the camera, and maybe I will think about it. But the fact that they decided to do a camera is ridiculous, and they have lost me.
Well, but bear in mind, this is for medical research
No,
at this point in time. This is not a commercial product at this point.
You
Steven.
let me know one medical system that you have ever heard of that has not been compromised somehow along the way for security purposes or security compromises. Yeah, you let me know when you find that, because there's probably one
there
for
are
every single
HIPAA
time.
laws and things like that. I mean,
This is ridiculous, and whoever decided to put a camera in it, it's dumb. It's dumb, and I retract my highlighting of your news article.
Well, there is an ickiness factor to it, but I sort of understand their theory as to why it would be helpful. It doesn't overcome the ickiness factor in my mind, but I get what they're trying to do.
I'm not going to kink shame those out there.
Good
that
answer. Good answer.
Appreciate this technology, but I ain't putting it in my house.
Suncast wants to know if it'll also say if he has sufficiently wiped his bum.
You know, there's something to be said about that, because prior to coronavirus at work, you never knew, right? The people that you work with are gross.
Yes.
We already knew that prior to coronavirus. And coronavirus, if you happen to be still at work and everybody's forced to wash their hands now and everything, that's one thing. But normal society, people are gross, and I'll bet you that's part of it.
Now, what I want to know is when the optional bidet gets added to this to make it part of your full home health suite.
Like if you don't wipe your bum correctly, you get shot.
No. More importantly, there's this camera there to know how things are coming out and to identify you. It would know when to stop spraying you, in theory. That's the natural extension of this camera technology, is that you don't have to sit there, and I've never used a bidet, mind you, so I'm just kind of hazarding a guess here of, is my butt clean yet? I don't know. Well, Dr. Toilet will know and ensure that your tushy is adequately cleaned.
Listener, I warned you, the show is in the crapper.
But all right, so yes, this is rife for us making fun of and things like that. But the science is kind of intriguing about how you could look at a person's morning constitutional and bathroom trips and what health benefits could be gleaned from that. If you can find a way to overcome or obscure the ick factor and make it so that it doesn't make your skin crawl a little bit, I could see some potential health benefits if you were a user of this system, because then you find out, oh, he's iron deficient, or oh, this guy's not peeing enough, or oh, this guy has frequent diarrhea that could indicate other stomach or gastrointestinal issues. So there are potential health benefits, I would argue.
Does it
Yes,
weigh
this is
the waist as well?
You know, I was kind of wondering if it would, but I have not seen anything about that in this article. That doesn't mean there couldn't be a future iteration of it. But yes, this is a punchline. We can make fun of it. But at the same time, they are trying to look into different health benefits in a different and unique way that just kind of is icky when you think about it at first.
You know, guys, I'm old. I'm not that old, but I'm old. And I could see another 20, 25 years down the road where I wouldn't, excuse the expression, give a crap. And I would want to use this.
Oh, all I know is that you're never loaning me your spare C922 again.
It's the 920 that I used.
All right, well, listener, you're still here. So first off,
Sorry.
congratulate yourself on that one. If you want us to know a little more about whether you're interested in this or not, please tweet us at Gonna Geek on Twitter. And remember, at the Chris Farrell, he's the one that you can thank for all of these images that you've had over the last what's felt like 3 hours.
When you tweet us, make sure you use hashtag Dr. Toilet. You can use it either fully spelled out or abbreviated. I don't care.
So I heard that sometimes we do non-toilet news points, and I'd like to get
Blasphemy.
there. I'd like to get
Blasphemy.
there right now, SP.
I would think that the vast majority of news points that we do are non-toilet news points.
Look, you guys are just jealous that only Suncast and I ever brought toilet news to the official GonnaGeek.com show. That's what I'm hearing here.
Jealous is far, far from what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, I need a stronger word. It's not strong enough. I realize.
You know what you need to do? You need to do an after hours program, and you can call it Toilet Talk Tonight. That's what you can call it.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time. You're going to be home more.
All right, what's your news point before like we lose the last listener?
Well, in an ironic twist, we are talking about a pressure tank collapse. So, yeah, I had to get from point A to point C somehow, guys. Sorry about
How are you
that.
getting to point B
Yeah.
or point B?
So SpaceX Starship SN3 prototype collapsed last week in a pressure tank test. I got my information from a couple of articles, one from space.com by Megan Bartles and one from spacenews.com by Jeff Faust. So guys, here's what's going on with SpaceX in the last week. I didn't think we'd get any SpaceX news since I did my big long thing, but apparently we are. So for the third time in less than 5 months, a prototype of SpaceX's Starship next generation launch vehicle was destroyed in a test at the company's South Texas facilities April 3rd, although this failure may be an issue with the test itself. Unfortunately, I didn't find any more information about that, but the test itself could be to blame. Here's what happened. The Starship SN3 vehicle was on the pad at SpaceX's test site for a cryogenic tanking test, where the vehicle's propellant tanks are filled with liquid nitrogen. The test was intended to demonstrate that the SN3 prototype could withstand the high pressure of very cold fuel that such a vehicle will need to endure before flights. During the test, shortly after 3 a.m. Eastern Time on April 3rd, SM3 appeared to crumble about halfway up, causing the top part of the vehicle to topple, and then the whole thing kind of imploded. There's a couple of great YouTube videos on it. The cryogenic pressure test would have been followed by a static fire, which would have been the vehicle's engines lit briefly while CN3 was held in place, and followed by a hopping test when SN3 would have made the first flight of a full-size Starship prototype. How do I know this? Because the Federal Aviation Administration issued a notice to airmen, also known as NOTAM, on April 1st for the area around the test site for April 6th through the 8th, consistent with a static fire test of the vehicle. Now, the static fire test may have been followed by a low-altitude hop test similar to the August 2019 flight of its Starhopper prototype, where the vehicle flew to an altitude of about 150 meters before landing on a nearby pad on the 1-minute flight. That test would have required an experimental permit from the FAA's Office of Commercial Space Transportation, which had yet to be issued. Now, what are the previous failures? We talked about them before on the show. In November 2019, the Starship Mark I vehicle suffered a bulkhead failure during a similar test, sending debris flying. The company said at the time that the incident took place in a test intended to pressurize systems to the max, so the outcome was not completely unexpected. A second Starship vehicle, SN1, was also destroyed in a cryogenic tanking test February 28th, this time with the vehicle bursting near its base. Elon Musk, founder and chief executive of SpaceX, said the failure in that test appeared to be within a, quote, thrust puck, unquote, at the base of the tank that takes the load from the vehicle's Raptor engines. Now, just to clarify, because of the previous story, we're not talking about like a urinal puck. We're talking about a thrust puck. It's totally different. It's rockets in its origin. Okay, guys?
Question. Are they going to
Quest.
put a Dr. Toilet on the rockets when people are in them?
I don't know if Dr. Toilet will make its way to spacecraft. Matter of fact, I don't know if it's already on board the International
See?
Space Station.
That was a legit question that was semi-related to the topic at hand, but you would imagine this is the kind of stuff they would want to track potentially, that bowel movements and whatnot could provide info.
Especially if you go to Mars and you need to farm potatoes.
He's got to science the expletive out of things.
That's right. So going on to the other failures, SpaceX decided to strip the next Starship vehicle, which was marked SN2, down to that tank to test it and the performance of the thrust puck weld. Those tests took place successfully on March 8th, so everything was good. The Starship SN3 failed test means that the company will presumably move on to the SN4 as it continues to sort out design issues. Guys, this is something that we haven't talked about either. So last week, SpaceX published the first version of a user's guide for the Starship vehicle. According to the 6-page guide, the baseline reusable design of the system will be able to place more than 100 metric tons into low Earth orbit and 21 metric tons into geostationary transfer orbit with in-orbit propellant transfer. So you refuel in space. SpaceX says that the Starship can carry more than 100 metric tons to the surface of the Moon or of Mars. Now, a crude version of the vehicle, the guide goes on to state, can accommodate up to 100 people with private cabins, large common areas, centralized storage, solar storm shelters, and a viewing gallery. SpaceX plans Starship launches from both Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center and its Boca Chica facility in Texas. The guide, though, did not offer a schedule for beginning such missions or estimated prices. SpaceX has already signed at least one customer up for a Starship flight. We're talking about Japanese billionaire Yasuko Maezawa has booked a trip around the moon on the spacecraft with a target launch date of 2023.
So, are they going to have lots of different videos to access in that gallery that you spoke of?
The gallery is a viewing gallery out into space.
But
it is
what
not
if-
like a home theater.
What if I only like to watch one type of video that was referred to in the last segment?
Then you shouldn't be on the spaceship.
Scrubs season, Scrubs TV shows.
Yeah, exactly.
You can watch that.
Exactly what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that watches Scrubs should be on the spaceship. I mean, that's some
What?
dangerous comedy right there.
Scrubs is delightful.
This seems like a pretty big failure. Like, failing a pressure tank test. It feels like they should be beyond this.
Yeah, so the first failure was basically a bulkhead failure, and they were pressurizing it to the max, and they admitted that they were just seeing what the limits were. Okay, so you expected it to blow up. Why didn't you tell anybody about it? This one, though, they tried everything, and it still blew up, and now they're saying it's a problem with the test, yet they didn't say what that problem was. There was a few tweets, including Elon Musk himself, which said, we'll look at the data tomorrow, which was April 4th. I haven't seen anything in the news following that.
I have to say, I'm feeling less confident lately in SpaceX over the last month or so. They had some high confidence for me, but I feel like they did really good at what they did well, and now they're unknown. Their development is not being. It's being a failure. Okay,
So you got
I was trying
multiple-
to not say that question.
Well, I mean, of course it's going to be a failure. We failed a lot in the creation of our space program from NASA. I mean, it's not unprecedented. What they haven't done yet is had a fatality. So what have they developed? They've developed the rockets, the Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy, or whatever they're calling the big Falcon rocket nowadays. So they've got that going on. There was a lot of failures with that. Remember, they were trying to land the boosters down, and a lot of them crashed or didn't land on the ship right or whatever. Then they decided to go after the fairings. They had the two ships try to catch the fairings. That didn't work out for a while. They finally caught some, so that seems to be working now. They also were in the development of the Dragon crew capsule. They already have the Dragon capsule to go up to the International Space Station to deliver cargo, but they wanted to make a manned version out of it. And that ran into some developmental issues, which I'm glad they did it in development rather than in reality with humans on board. They seem to have all the kinks worked out. There's still slated for a launch later this year to the International Space Station with that. And now they're still in the failure mode of trying to figure out what this starship is actually capable of or what kind of design they really need to do it with. So these ships will be outperforming the shuttle in terms of launch rate and total launches per ship. They're going to have to be developed pretty robustly. And if they got to break a few in the process, they got to break a few. Is this something that I wish that they would have gone through without breaking as many? Probably, but it's spectacular. I mean, maybe he's doing it for that factor. I don't know.
I guess time will tell. Like I said, my personal confidence is not as high as it was, and I was feeling really good about them for a while. But what do I know? I'm just a schmuck who has a podcast that knows nothing about space or anything.
So who are you feeling good about then?
Nobody.
Or anyone? Okay, that's fair.
Nobody. Right now,
well, it's not Apple, so maybe it's Google.
No, I know you were referring to space companies. I'm not feeling the same way I was at this point last year about all of the different companies that was out there. I was feeling a lot more optimistic.
I know why. He's too distracted by the upcoming Cybertruck. He can't wait to get one too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
I am very excited for that. And I know what SP's saying. He's saying, how can you guys like that? I hate the Cybertruck. But
no, don't
Chris
take my shtick away. You have blessed me with that being my shtick, and I can't get away from it. I cannot allow you to put that stink on someone else now.
I believe I'm the only one here that's put a down payment on one.
Yeah, because I'd rather have a Model Y.
Sure. You have a down payment on a Model Y?
No, because I just bought a new car less than a year ago.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. I hope that pretty soon you'll bring us some more success stories, SP, because we need better stories, because so far the first two have been failures.
I don't know if the first one is it's a failed news story. Like, it shouldn't have been a news story. So that's the first one. The second one was about a fail. It was news about a failure.
That's true.
So it's a little different.
That's true. Your story was a success. The content was a fail. Sounds wrong, but the nature of the content was a failure. And then again,
it was about a failure.
It was about a failure. Dr. Toilet, we'll just leave that in the past.
That was informative science. We went hard on science. And I hope Cody Goff has a story on Dr. Toilet on Curiosity Daily.
Can we just move on from number 2 and get on to the third story?
Please.
Just bear down, Steven.
All right. So Google has made some changes to a controversial, I should say, upcoming change that we're going to see in Chrome. So what they've done is they've basically stepped back on some proposed changes and some changes that we're actually rolling out. What happened was Google stated in a blog post that they are going to roll back the same site cookie changes that they had previously started to roll out in February. Essentially, what was going to happen was they were going to be enforcing secure by default handling of third-party cookies as part of the effort to improve privacy and security. It's just one of those things that essentially they are restricting what Chrome will allow. And unfortunately, this type of cookie is something that was well used throughout the internet a while ago. But what they decided to do is hold off on that, and they're going to actually roll back any of the changes for any of the users who had seen this because of COVID-19 right now. They said that it's just not the time, and that with all of the circumstances with COVID-19, they just think that it makes more sense to roll these back, but have clearly stated this is a temporary rollback. It will continue to happen at a later date. So I thought that this was good because there must be some form of recognition that people aren't going to be able to make the changes that are necessary in order to meet the Chrome security change. And it made me think, what other things that they've announced might we see them pump the brakes on? For example, they did announce that they were going to, and I wrote a blog post over on betterpodcasting.com. They announced that by the end of the year, they were going to make it so that you cannot download a insecure file from a secure site. Basically, if you're on an HTTPS site, by the end of the year, if you click on a link to download a file, like an exe, an MP3, anything, that file will have to be hosted also on a secure site, HTTPS. That was something they announced, and it was going to be a staggered rollout. And I'm just curious, is this also eventually going to be, held back on? And what other changes? Because this is not an unusual thing for Chrome to do. They do this every year. They pick something that they feel is the next evolution of security, and they say, webmasters, get in line, smarten up, or you might lose people from our browser. And most people understand the reason why it's necessary, and so they go and they make the changes. But if we're seeing them pump the brakes on this one, what else might we see? In any case, if you are a webmaster that was concerned about this, well, number one, see if you could still make the change. But two, know you've got a little bit more time. What's your thoughts on this, Chris Farrell? I know that you personally were worried about cookies. That's something you told me offline, that you were worried about being able to get more cookies.
C is for cookie. Cookies for me. I want a cookie now.
What kind of cookie?
Ooh. This isn't going to be a popular choice, but I want an oatmeal raisin, but chewy oatmeal raisin. Not like the ones that are like the crunchy and flake apart, but the ones that have a little bend and give to them.
Well, the bonus is once you get your Dr. Toilet, we can also, never mind. I'll leave that alone.
Don't be gross, Steven. This has medical purposes, and you went down the gross path. Come on now. We expect more solid plans from you.
Solid?
I knew what I said.
Anyways,
don't judge me.
SP, anything about the cookie Chrome?
The cookie Chrome.
Let's just go ahead and move on to our extra. This is a disaster of an episode. I don't even know.
No, I need to go back and say something about this story for Chrome and everything. So a lot of people can't work right now because of various issues. And there's some people that are working because they're remote. And that is an issue with hardware and software. Hardware side, I mean, I'm looking for a new Apple TV, right? And that's not coming out. It was supposed to be announced last month, and it's not coming out. Probably because a variety of factors, including manufacturing issues in China or Asia for its entirety. The iPhone might not actually launch this fall on time like it normally does. So that's hardware. Software, you also have issues. And what concerns me about that, especially if we're talking about security patches, is that somebody that doesn't give a rip about working in isolation or not is a hacker. And those hackers probably work together. I mean, some of them are solo, but they're used to working in this sort of environment of being distributed and not being all together and stuff like that. And they're going to exploit vulnerabilities as they see them, more so now because they have more time with the same vulnerabilities than before. So we're entering into a dangerous time because hackers aren't taking time off.
That's a really good point, and I actually hadn't considered that. The fact that internet use probably is up right now, and also
probably
internet use more than just Netflix, okay? Because this isn't going to affect your streaming service
and Pornhub. Don't forget Pornhub.
But
free premium
in Italy.
But that's more people using it, and more people using it in an insecure location than they would have. Because let's be honest, a lot of people use their work computers for things they shouldn't be using their work computers for, but they benefit from the security that their corporate environment has. And now a lot of people are working at home. It's a really good point, SP, and one that I hadn't considered. So yeah, I'm glad that they recognize, now that I think about it, I'm glad they recognize that this might cause problems, but I think they probably should have continued. You changed my mind, SP.
No, SP's right. This is too much of a tenuous time right now where staffing is weird and things like that. The last thing you need to do is roll out a change like this. You have half your IT staff off site because they are supporting remotely, and that's shaky at best. And all of a sudden, people can't download things properly. Whether it's a good idea or not prior to that is a separate debate. Whether it's a good idea to do that in today's current situation, it is not a good idea.
So there's two aspects of everything. There's the aspect of the developing of the new stuff to make sure it's secure, but there's also the aspect of protecting what you have now. And that's my point. There's going to be new vulnerabilities or even old vulnerabilities that are just going to persist longer than you want. So that will make systems and software and personal information more vulnerable in the next 6 to 12 months than they would have been had the world not come to a stop.
Suncast in the chat. That's right. We stream this live on Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at geeks.live. He brings up a really interesting point, and it's basically, why did they continue to go through with this change when they had the time to not implement it in the first place? So like that, they started rolling. Sorry, my phone. One sec. So they started to roll this out when they knew that the whole shelter at home thing was coming, like, and continued to roll it out. So I think it's an interesting point, and I guess maybe somebody overlooked it, or perhaps somebody was just too busy Googling Dr. Toilet. I'm not sure.
It's a great segment on Scrubs. What are you judging for?
Fair enough. Well, moving on to our extra, we just got one quick hit here, and
Not two.
We got two quick hits here. I apologize.
I don't know if we have two or not. I was trying to make a number two joke.
Oh, fair enough. Well, we have one quick hit here. We'll stick with number one. And it's all about the Pixel. We talked about how when the Pixel 4 and the 4 XL came out, there was some criticism about the fact that they implemented the face unlocking, but without actually having to have your eyes opened. It was a really questionable decision that they made. Well, they did start.
It was dumb.
It was stupid. Would you like to slam on it as well, SP? Chris and I both got that. Would you like to chime in here?
I'm going to let that one pass.
Okay, fair enough. So anyways, it was stupidly dumb. And so they ended up this month rolling out a update that does give you the ability to make it so that you have to have your eyes open to unlock. So a well overdue update. I don't know why they even tried to roll this out without having that feature in. It just opened them to a bunch of criticism, and rightfully so. So Chris Farrell, you'll be pleased to know that your Pixel 4 XL that you own, you can now have this feature.
Pixel 4 XL. I still have my 2 XL, which is no longer supported in 6 months? Something like that. It's going to be a sad day. And I think I'm getting the Pixel 4a, but that's neither here nor there. And the 4a hasn't officially released yet. So we'll save that for a future episode.
I think you and I are going to continue to be very close Pixel buddies. I think so.
Are we going to be Pixel buddies?
We are. I don't have it loaded, or I don't have it loaded. I'm sorry. But that's because the Stream Deck is a problem. No, it's not.
Don't blaspheme. You're terrible. You blasphemed about Stream Deck?
No, I love my Stream Deck.
Daddy Stream Deck loves us.
My Stream Deck's not my only stream that I like. But also, sorry, I couldn't resist. I did. Sorry, let's just go.
I'm so sorry I did this story now.
SP Space Symposium. Save us, SP.
I will. So this is one that I've been looking forward to for a while, and I had to actually skip around a little bit to get to it, but I thought this is the perfect night for it. So we're going to be talking about Pioneer 10, which is a space probe. This is SP Space.
Is this you? Is this you, the 10th version of you?
No.
No.
He's a clone.
Yeah, because there was an 11. But we'll get to that later. Okay, so this is SP Space Symposium. What I've been doing since episode 136 is talking about different things in space. We talked about space telescopes. We moved on to orbiting probes around the Earth. Now we're talking about different probes that are going out into the solar system. Chris, Do you know what number Space Symposium that we are on tonight?
X, where X is a positive integer.
And X equals?
A Y equals Y.
This is the 31st Space Symposium, Chris. 31st. You've listened to
That's what
30
I
of these
said.
so far.
X and Y equal 31. You're the one that just hadn't defined X and Y. I told you it was X and Y. The math is solid here. It's
Going to
solid.
be one of those nights. All right. So what makes Pioneer 10 so positive other than sharing my name? It's because it was the first spacecraft not only to travel through the asteroid belt, but it was the first spacecraft to make direct observation and obtain close-ups of the planet Jupiter.
God, I
Wow.
was hoping it was Uranus just to go with this first story. We made Steven walk off. I'm sorry, SP. I just ruined your segment, didn't I?
So that planet was actually not in this segment whatsoever.
I just wanted it
because
to be.
it's not. There's no issue of Uranus in the story on
That's 'cause
Pioneer
Dr.
10.
Toilet diagnosed it. I'm gonna stop now.
Please.
I'm gonna stop.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Pioneer 10 just like we have all the other space probes. What kind of orbit is it in? It's in a heliocentric orbit, which is not entirely true. Why is that, Chris? Why wouldn't it not be a if it's going from one planet to the other? Why would it not be in a heliocentric orbit?
Well, I am but a lowly non-rocket scientist, so I don't know without consulting Wikipedia, SP.
Okay, that's fair. So do you know what the definition of a heliocentric orbit is?
At one point in time, I probably did. Sadly,
It's basically
I do not
an
remember.
orbit around the sun.
Okay.
So it's orbiting around the sun. So what would make a voyage from one planet to the other where you're still flying in space not a heliocentric orbit?
It keeps expanding to go further and further out. And
That's right.
hey,
Orbit the sun.
I
It
feel
is
like I just
leaving the solar system. Do you know, Chris? We're going to ask Steven this. So
Okay.
just you and me, because we talked about it while he was gone. Steven, how many probes have we sent off out there that have the velocity to escape the solar system?
5.
It is 5. How did you know that?
that?
I just guessed.
Wow.
Guess.
Name them. Name them.
There was the and
Uh-huh.
also the
Don't
other
forget. Woof, woof, woof.
Uh-huh.
and then there was the and the
You know two of them off the top of your head.
Pioneer 10.
Well, okay, since we're talking about it. But what are other two that you know?
I don't know.
Voyager
Voyager
1
1,
and
Voyager
Voyager
2.
2.
Right.
That's
And
right.
Voyager. So I got 3 of them.
No.
No, Beecher's not one of them. It's Voyager 1, Voyager 2, Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11, and then my pal, my buddy, it went by MU-69. What is it, Steven?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
New Horizons.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I failed you. I completely failed you there, SB. I apologize.
You have. So
For the
I
last
planned
time.
for this. This is all good. Okay. So it was launched, Pioneer 10 was launched on March 2nd, 1972. I am older than this Pioneer 10, but okay. So it was launched then. It was launched on an Atlas Centaur TE 364-4 launch vehicle from Cape Canaveral on pad 36A. What made this rocket so special was that it was the first use of the Atlas Centaur as a 3-stage launch vehicle. Now, the third stage was required to propel Pioneer 10 to the speed of 52,000 kilometers per hour, which is for us Americans, 32,400 miles per hour. And it was needed for the flight to Jupiter. This made Pioneer 10 the fastest man-made object to leave the Earth, fast enough to pass the moon in just 11 hours. Remember, it was a 3-day trip with the Apollo astronauts, and to cross the Mars orbit about 80 million kilometers or 50 million miles away in just 12 weeks in a flight path that we normally take in a Holman transfer orbit to go 6 months. So this thing was smoking fast. This was like a Tesla just rocking out of the starting blocks and just blowing every gas guzzling engine away.
Like a Tesla Roadster sailing through space.
Or a Cybertruck, a 3-engine Cybertruck with a 0 to 60 in 1.2 seconds.
But that's not in space.
Well, it could operate in space.
Not
There's
yet.
nothing that says
they
it
haven't
can't.
launched one yet.
No, not yet. That's right. They
Notice
will.
I said yet.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this was a project that was controlled or ran by NASA Ames, who managed the project. It wasn't JPL, it wasn't Goddard, it was NASA Ames, who did the entire Pioneer program. It launched with a mass of 258.8 kilograms, or about 571 pounds, which is about half the weight of a Tesla Cybertruck battery.
There we go.
Steven, how much does a Tesla Cybertruck battery weigh?
I'm
X.
sorry. I was too busy changing your overlay to say Cybertruck instead of your name. I wasn't paying attention.
All right. So you can go research that and you can get back to me later. I was expecting a smart aleck answer like, well, twice as much as the Pioneer 10. But no.
That's
you
actually a
skipped that.
really good smart ass answer.
That
Why didn't you
is.
think about that?
I'm
Yeah.
impressed. I'm impressed. I now wish that I hadn't been changing your title to say Cybertruck.
Okay. So the dimensions of the Pioneer 10 bus alone was about 36 centimeters or 14 inches deep, with a 6 long panels that were 76 centimeters or 30-inch long, and it formed this hexagonal structure. It had a huge communication dish on it, and then it had huge arms on it, just like you see in the Voyager pictures. So this was a big probe that was launched in 1972. The mission was to go to the planet Jupiter. It was the first time that we went to Jupiter. And it also became the first artificial object to achieve the escape velocity that will allow it to leave the solar system. Pioneer 10 was NASA's first mission to the outer planets. So it was the first mission beyond Mars. The mission was a spectacular success, and the spacecraft notched a series of firsts, which was unmatched by any other robotic spacecraft to date. It was a huge success in 1972. The spacecraft was only designed for a 21-month mission, but it lasted more than 30 years. We'll get into the end of life in a second here. So what are some of the firsts? Let's go through them. It was the first spacecraft on a trajectory to escape the solar system into interstellar space. We covered that. It was the first spacecraft to fly beyond Mars. We covered that. It was the first spacecraft to fly through the main asteroid belt. And yes, it took some hits, but it kept on ticking. It was the first spacecraft to fly past Jupiter, and it crossed the orbit of not Uranus, but Neptune to become the first human-made object to go beyond Neptune. And it was the first spacecraft to use an all-nuclear electrical power plant, which is not found on the Cybertruck.
Yet. Someone's going to mod one to do it. You know it because of the way it looks. They'll be like, ha ha, it's my post-apocalyptic nuclear-powered vehicle. And then we're all going to die in nuclear fire.
Has to be nuclear fire?
I mean, that
Can't
just
just be
sounds
normal fire?
better on paper. I mean, it'll probably just be regular fire, but
Yeah,
it's
if you
more
would have
colorful.
said Judgment Day, I would have gone with that too.
But the language is more colorful if you describe it as nuclear fire.
So this was part of a suite of Pioneer satellites that were sent up. We actually talked about some before that was taking solar radiation, solar wind measurements throughout the inner solar system. And it had various different models that went through. So 10 was the first one to actually shoot off and go into outer space. And because it had the history of taking like solar wind measurements and stuff like that, it had those instruments on it. So when it went past Jupiter, its mission didn't go away. It kept on taking measurements of the solar wind and the solar radiation as it sailed out of the solar system. It had a payload of a bunch of scientific instruments, at least 6 of which operated fully as it transpired past Jupiter. And that encounter was phenomenal. This was the first time that we had close-up pictures of Jupiter. I put some in the document, and this was a NASA data dump a few years ago that they went out and they did all of the Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11 photos of Jupiter. And this is where we were able to see the big red spot close up for the first time. This is where we got an inkling of the moons, all the moons, and the possibility that there were rings, although I don't think we actually visualized the rings until the Voyager series. But this was phenomenal. This was, just imagine, you've got this big honking planet in the solar system, the biggest thing outside the sun that's out there. And we hadn't taken a look at it until this thing went by in 1973. This was amazing.
So what you're saying is that they had a camera that saw this big honking thing and they looked at the dark spot? Sounds very familiar to our first story.
Pioneer 10 passed by Jupiter within 130,000 kilometers or 81,000 miles of the cloud tops on December 3, 1973. So, yeah, this was a year and a half in the making to get there. Some of the key dates of the mission: it was launched on March 2nd of 1972. It entered the asteroid belt on July 15th, 1972. I mentioned that it took some hits. It did some micro asteroid impacts, but it didn't impact the spacecraft. It didn't change anything with the spacecraft. It had its closest approach to Jupiter on December 4th, 1973. In February 1976, it crossed Saturn's orbit on June 13th, 1983. It crossed the orbit of Neptune on March 31st, 1997. It had its routine contact with the spacecraft terminated. And on January 23rd, 2003, Pioneer 10's last signal is received by Earth. There was a final attempt to contact Pioneer 10 on March 4th, 2006, which failed. So end of life was January 23rd, 2003. And as we mentioned at the top of this segment, it is one of 5 objects that are conceivably outside the solar system. Very difficult to tell if it is actually out of the solar system because we're not receiving any data from it like we were from Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. So we can ascertain that they're outside of the solar system. And the same goes with Pioneer 11. So they are far enough to be considered outside the solar system, but you're not actually taking any of those measurements to say for sure whether it's out of the solar system or not. Interestingly enough, it's on a flight path to go by a star in the constellation of Taurus. So that's where it's heading, but none of us will be around to actually see that.
You know, I was looking at the photos that you posted, and one of the things that I find really interesting, unless it's just the scale, but when you look at sort of all of these satellites that were made within sort of the general 10, 20 years, it's amazing how much variety there was in size between these different satellites. So it's, or probes. I can't, sorry. I was thinking about it earlier. When I look
you were
at
thinking
these,
about anal probing.
I know, it's horrible.
Whoa.
No. So one of the things that I think is interesting about this, and maybe it's just the scale, I don't know, but when I look at the pictures that you post in here, it's pretty amazing to me the difference in size, like when you see people up against them with between the different probes that they made sort of within the same era, the same 10-15 years. So it's pretty crazy to me, the difference in size. And this one looks like relatively small compared to some of the other ones. And is that why it was so successful of just making it through the belt?
I don't think size had anything to do with it making it through the belt. I think the size is a determination of how much mass you can actually propel along the orbital trajectory that you're trying to navigate your item through. I mean, this was a shot to go through Jupiter. It was a direct shot. It wasn't taking advantage of any gravitational assist from any of the planets, which we've really done a good job ever since then. I mean, Galileo is an example, and Magellan. These spacecraft went out into the outer planets and they took advantage of gravitational assists of a lot of things. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 did gravitational assists to get as far as they did. This was a straight shot. This was just this big honking rocket that was used to propel as much mass as they could out there. You're talking about as many redundancies that you can throw on this thing. You're talking about miniaturization wasn't all that great back then. We could probably send Chris's Pixel up to Jupiter right now, and it would have more computing power than this thing had at the time, and more sensors on it, quite frankly, too. So the fact that we were able to do this in 1972 with the size is just a matter of how much mass that we could throw along that orbital trajectory.
Well, thank you for sharing again, SP. I always appreciate when you do SP Space Symposium, even though we may have made a couple of jokes because Chris completely derailed the show. I do truly appreciate it because I've talked about it before, and I think that especially now more than ever, we need to remember that if we don't talk about space stuff, we end up kind of getting a little bit complacent with it. And I think that's what we saw through the 90s. And so I'm glad to see all of this development happening right now. And I enjoy the fact that there is a lot of people passionate about space history again. And I appreciate that you're always willing to share your knowledge on this show so that we can enlighten some other people as well. So thank you.
You bet. Next time I'm going to be talking about Mariner 9. Chris, do you have any idea why we'll be talking about Mariner 9?
Because it's next up on your list.
Good answer. That's a good answer. It happened to be the first spacecraft to orbit another planet. So we're going to be talking about Mariner 9, the successes of it, and why it was so monumental.
Nice.
If you have a request for SP to cover something in the future to do with space, please tweet us at Stargate Pioneer on Twitter. You should tell him what you would like to see him cover, and maybe he'll shake up that list eventually. You never know. Maybe he'll make like a SP Space Symposium bonus or extra, or maybe he'll just go and I don't know, just reply to you on Twitter with the answer. I don't know.
Maybe. I'm thinking of a Patreon exclusive there.
Oh, I guess one of us got to get a Patreon then.
That's right.
Patreon.com/Stargate Pioneer.
No, that doesn't exist yet. I bet you JS has one though.
Patreon.com/Iron Man Ice Cream Kid.
That's a
I love it,
callback.
Steve.
That's a callback.
That's a callback.
All right. Well, now that we've suffered through episode 327, we should just take a moment to see if there's anything that you would like to plug or promote. Let's start it off with Mr. Pioneer.
If you like talking about podcasting, or if you're just trying to figure out what should I do to try to, for a hobby as I'm trying to stream out, you can come join us on our live chats every other Tuesday at 8 p.m. at geeks.live. And Stephen and I can answer your questions live, or you can actually download our latest episode and go to betterpodcasting.com and check out all the ways that we would recommend on how to start a podcast during the COVID-19 stay-at-home order.
I'll go ahead and go next, and I'd just like to let everybody know if you have any questions about podcasting or anything like that, you can always check us out every other Tuesday at geeks.live at 8 p.m. Eastern. And also, if you haven't checked out the most recent episode of Better Podcasting, you can. We talked all about if you're thinking of starting a podcast during the COVID-19 situation. You check that out at betterpodcasting.com. Chris, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote?
Sure. Real quick on the All Things Good Nerdy podcast, we are still working on assembling the Cabin Fever playlist, as we're calling it, since we are all staying at home due to COVID-19. We're trying to compile a list of different things people can watch, game, read that'll keep them entertained during this time. So if you have any suggestions, you can go to the official All Things Good Nerdy channel on Discord at geeks.link/Discord, or feel free to add to the Google Doc that's out there at bit.ly/ATGN Cabin Fever. Please give us some more suggestions for what should be on the Cabin Fever playlist. You guys know we're all watching a ton of different things. There's a lot of things to entertain ourselves while we're stuck at home.
My sister, my brother-in-law, and my nephew literally have cabin fever right now. They're at the cabin. They've been sequestered there since this whole thing started. They literally have cabin. Never mind.
I thought that you were talking about either the 2002 or the 2016 movies called Cabin Fever.
That was better than where I thought he was going to go.
Or not, apparently 1998. or the sequel to the.
If I was going to talk about one of those, I would talk about Contagion, which I'm never going to talk about Contagion anymore because we're living it.
Fair enough. Well, on that note, for episode number 327 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew saying that I'm pretty sure Picard would like Dr. Toilet because all he ever talked about was number one.
And I'm SP saying I don't think Picard needs Dr. Toilet anymore.
And I'm Chris Farrell, paging Dr. Toilet. Dr. Toilet to the 3rd floor, please. Paging Dr. Toilet.
Bye. Let's just delete this episode.
Please.
This is classic.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of The Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.
What was that?
Sounded like somebody was snoring.
No, I was trying out my Dr. Toilet.
That was interesting. Your
Just let it
toilet's
pass.
built into your desk chair?
This isn't
I
a
mean-
chair.
You put it. You have the
But-
lazy bowl recliner?
But funny enough, we have one of those at the lake as an emergency toilet.
Oh yeah, one of the Porta Johns or whatever you call them, or just a chair with a hole.
It's a chair with a toilet seat on where the chair is, and it was actually made for that.
That's all. That's
Ooh.
seems like something everybody needs.
I mean, if your septic system fails, you're out in the woods.
Then you just poop in the woods.
Well,
like
yeah,
the
but
bears do.
I mean, yeah, you can, but it's easier if you're sitting down, right?
Humans are made to squat.
No, Suncast, I don't.
Whoa.
All I know is that
Wow.
I didn't look at Chris's article beforehand, and I was genuinely shocked and put off by the camera. Like,
That's what was the disturbing part of it. But at the same time, from a research perspective, I sort of get what they're trying to do. But from a consumer perspective, that's not a consumer product you're going to be able to sell someone on.
No.
There's just there's too much web space or internet space already devoted to that sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff already.
You could just say crap and just double down on the.
I know. That's what I was thinking of. And I'm like, nope, not gonna, because that's just, like I said, I'm not gonna kink shame, but that's just not my thing.
Yeah. I don't know where. I guess we go up from here. I guess that's where we go from here.
Oh, it wasn't that bad. Calm down.
I can see, like, I was serious. 20 years from now, I'm probably going to be needing something like this. I could see the importance of this.
Suncast question.
But I think it
Probably.
looks.
Probably.
Suncast, I think it looks at what's coming out also. So there would be a telltale difference as you move to hold a camera over.
No, stop.
Look.
Stop.
It's
Yeah, I can think of all sorts of NFL ways to.
Stop.
And I don't even want to do that.
You know, I actually did.
I'm not trying to be gross. I think the science they're looking at is kind of fascinating.
I actually though did fool an early version of the Android Face Unlock with a picture. That was God, what version was that they rolled that out that they did the Face Unlock? And I held up my wife's phone with my picture on it and it unlocked.
Well, a lot of people now, I mean, some are making fun of it and some aren't. They're making they're coming out with they can't open their phones because they have a mask over their face.
Mm.
And some people are making fun of it, and some people are like, this is now a security concern.
Well,
Well, you still have a pin, so
Yeah.
it's not that much of a security concern.
it's
It's not like you can't get in.
exactly. It's a laziness concern.
Well, but that means you have to touch your phone more, which might be contaminated.
You got to touch your phone to use it anyways. I mean, that doesn't hold a ton
You
of water.
can have it on the desk and you could be looking at it and you could tell it what to do. You don't have to touch it.
You could use voice unlock if you've got an Android.
That's also true.
Okay.
I just have to say, "Hey, G word," and bloop, it recognizes my name and my voice and unlocks.
You could use the toilet to recognize
What?
yourself.
What? You're just making this weird.
No, I get it, but I think it does, like, okay, legitimately, I wish you brought this up in show, because I do think that actually brings up a really good point about all of the people that said, well, what happens, like, at least with a fingerprint, you've got access to that really easily. What happens if you're in a situation that you can't use the face unlock? And now we're in that situation. So it really is a laziness concern.
You know, it's
but
part of the reason why the Pixel 4 does nothing for me, but the 4A does, because
Mhm.
it's still going to have that fingerprint sensor.
no,
I would prefer fingerprint sensor to face lock.
I've made
unlock
it
that.
no secret that if this comes out, the 4A comes out this year at the anticipated price point, that I will be also getting it. That's been my holdout for a while here, and I'm going to keep trying to hold out because I also have a Pixel 2, and I really, really do like what the 3A was. I think the 3A was a really good product.
So, Chris, I get what you're saying, and I'll agree with it. I'm just going to bring up an alternative situation where you have medical gloves which are unable to transfer the fingerprint.
Why you have your phone out then? I mean, at a certain
It
point,
could be
why
a
do you keep
medical
pulling your
device at
phone
that
out?
point.
How many of our cell phones are classified as medical devices?
I don't know. I don't work in the medical career field.
Yeah, pretty sure most of them aren't.
Okay.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but there's eventually a point where you can't keep countering. Then if you have to have gloves on, you don't need a touchscreen phone if you need to use your phone still, which they don't really make much else. But I mean, at what point do we draw the line to say these devices need to accommodate these edge cases?
Is it only,
I
is
mean,
it still only number? I don't mean this
Yeah.
negatively, but is it still only numbers for pin on iOS?
I think so.
Because
I thought you could do a word also with
Okay.
a keyboard.
that's the thing that I still really like about Android is the dots, because
Yeah, the pattern.
like if you really wanted to, and obviously it wouldn't be that secure, but like let's say you're in that situation right now where you can't use the fingerprint, you can't use the face unlock, and you're just using mostly the lock to keep honest people out and just to not pocket dial people. All you got to do is just make it a little dot, a line, like a diagonal line or whatever, right?
Well, and to be frank, if you're an Android user, you enable Smart Unlock, which is if it's connected to a trusted Bluetooth or Wi-Fi that you
True.
define, the screen doesn't lock. Or if it detects that it's just in your pocket and you've pulled it back out and not set it down somewhere in between, as long as it hasn't hit an inactivity period, then it stays unlocked too. But I mean, I'm not trying to be glib or anything, but specifically with the coronavirus stuff, I've made a point. Like anytime I go to the store, I don't even bring my phone in with me. It stays in the car because it's not something I need to be juggling, because I don't need
Yeah.
to touch my phone. I
Yep.
don't need to give in to the, oh my God, what's this buzz? Let me look in my pocket, because it probably doesn't matter. And then it's one more thing I need to go overly sanitize.
My
Totally
list
agree.
is on my phone.
Well,
See, I've made a point now of printing all mine out on paper as of late, because I don't
Exactly.
want to have them on my phone. So I would keep touching my phone.
That's exactly the point I was about to say. Is I have used a phone forever, for like since I first got a phone, for shopping purposes, and I've back to paper right now, and that's just again one less potential contact point.
So an interesting use case I saw was with someone that had Android Wear using the Google Keep app. As long as you open the app before you go in, it can
Mhm.
stay up. And Android Wear has wrist navigation, where with
Oh,
the
nice.
twitch of your wrist, you can scroll up and down. So they put the list on their phone. They couldn't mark anything off without touching it, but they could literally just flick their wrist, scroll up and down on the list that they had put onto Google Keep. So that theoretically is something you could do with a smart device. But honestly, at this point in time, simpler is better, I feel like. So I write my list on paper and then I throw my list in the trash can on my way out.
Yeah, I've been
then I don't have to worry about juggling my phone or dropping my phone or just being like, oh my God, I really shouldn't have done this. Now what do I do with my phone? Do I take my phone that I just touched after grabbing something off the shelf and put it back in my pocket? Do I hold it? Do I go and get a hand sanitizer wipe and wipe it down, then put it back in?
Well, before this, my wife and I are like notoriously bad at planning meals. Like we're terrible at it. So
yeah, this has made me be a lot better at it.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and I got 2 kids, so you know how kids can be. They like a lot of the same routine, right? So obviously I did go and, you know, over the course of a couple weeks did stock up a little bit more so than I would, so that I could go 2 weeks if I have to, or, you know, at least 1 week. And I've just been in the habit of, I put a piece of paper on my fridge, and every time I use something, I add it on the list, just because of the fact, again, we have a lot of routine with the kids. And so that's just before I go, I just pull it off the fridge. But again, I was completely a phone shopper before.
So one of the things I literally just started up tonight to try and cut down on my having to make lists and go to the store is there's all those services like HelloFresh and Blue Apron that you can sign up for that basically deliver 3 to 5 meals direct to your door. I just signed up for that again. Yes, it costs a little bit more, but at the same time, I realized when I did that, I could, instead of going to the store once a week, go every 2 weeks, basically, because it's covering 3 to 4 meals a week.
I heard that they were having delivery and product availability issues as well.
They didn't, from their website, they had some meals that weren't available, but I was able to choose ones I wanted, and I'm supposed to receive a box. I just signed up at 8 p.m. My first box should arrive on Saturday with 3 meals for the week. So if I don't go to the store on Wednesday like I was planning to, I can push it off until next Wednesday. It'll have been 2 weeks, and I'll have plenty of stuff to make it through that point in time. The only difficult thing is going to be when I run out of produce, because that most of that won't keep as long as I want, but I can adjust accordingly. A little bits help, I think. Or go real crazy and get a Blue Apron and a HelloFresh subscription and spend $150 a week.
Are you guys, do you have Instacart down there?
We do.
Versions of it.
Yeah.
They're so booked up.
Yeah, I've been weighing it, but like Chris said, is that it's hard to get the delivery on the hour time that they've said that they want to do it. Matter of fact, I was just talking about Michelle about this last night, and she was saying that the last time she went to the store, I think was Saturday, and she asked for a 5 p.m. Delivery out to her car, and the store closes earlier now, right? It closes at like 8 or 9 where she is. And they slipped it twice. So it was at 7 o'clock, and it was probably going to slip again. And so she said, screw it. She's just going to go in the store. She went in the store. She didn't want to, but she went in the store, and it was not populated at that point in time. Yeah. So she didn't have human contact, but there's still all of the human remains. You know, somebody sneezed, their sweat.
Yeah.
They're touching things. You know, you have to deal with all of that. So.
Yeah, I found that the stores going in weird hours has helped a lot. Now, we have a stay-at-home order in West Virginia where I am, so a lot of more people are respecting it than not currently, which is a good sign. But I've been going to the store Wednesdays after work, and the store I've been going to is not one of the bigger grocery stores in town, but the only thing that was gone was toilet paper. Everything else was in stock. There were not a ton of people in there. Everyone respected the 6-foot distance. The only time I felt slightly uncomfortable was when I got to the checkout. Other than that, I felt good to go. They had wipes as soon as you came in the door, so I could wipe down my cart and keep a couple extra in there so I could wipe my hands down from time to time.
I've been doing shopping as well. My dad's been doing the Instacart thing. That's why I brought it up. But yeah, unfortunately, I've just had some reasons that I've had to go to the store for prescriptions or whatever, right? So I've just done the shops, but I have to say the experience has been pretty good overall. It's weird because of the fact that everybody is so silent. Like, it's so unusual how silent it is, you know. And
everyone's locked down and in the zone. It feels
absolutely.
like to me. No one's stopping to talk. It's I've got to do this, 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 and this. And occasionally one of the employees asks, do you need a hand finding
Yeah.
something? And that was my experience.
And I will say that the Canadian cliche is very true. Two people apologizing to each other for the same event absolutely is it is true in stores. That happens all the freaking time when like someone almost bumps into somebody. Everybody apologizes, right? Like it's so unbelievably true, that cliche, and that doesn't happen, right? Because everybody again is so in the zone, and
So-
it's weird to me.
Our Walmarts here have adopted, they've got a cart corral out front that they use to guide people in. They have lines marked to keep people 6 feet apart, lined up, and they're only letting a certain number of people in the store at a time. And each aisle is marked as the direction you can go. So each aisle is one way, for
Wow.
instance. So you don't have people come in towards each other. And there's actually employees that are walking around reminding people to keep the 6-foot distance with signs and stuff to do that. So Walmart has really locked things down to, and it's smart, because as much as I first heard they were doing this, my first thought, and I felt bad for about 3 seconds, oh, damn it, this is going to make it so much harder when I need to get stuff. And then I paused and went, no, think about the bigger picture, Chris. Don't think about yourself. And I went, this is better for the people who have to shop, but it's a lot better for the employees that are working there too, because it's
Mhm.
not just hordes of people everywhere. And it makes it easier for them to clean up as they go. Because in theory, if you're limiting the number of people coming in, they can keep a better eye on what people are doing and know what all needs cleaned up as they go through.
Even with relatively good experiences, I still leave with the heebie-jeebies.
It's gotten better.
Like,
I mean, it's still anxiety inducing, and it
Mhm.
is the most anxiety inducing thing about my day. Like I still have to go to work right now. I've talked about it on this show before. I'm deemed essential. I have to go in. But I was talking to my coworkers today when I went, the time I feel least safe, it's not coming to work because there's not a ton of us in. We've all got proper spacing. We've got bleach wipes galore. I come in, wipe my desk down to start the day, don't leave my desk but to go to the bathroom. It's when I have to go and stop at the store because
Yeah.
I'm not in control of the situation then. I come to my desk, I'm relatively confident that if I wipe it down, I'm probably good because no one else has been sitting there.
right.
I had a coworker come work at my desk, and I
Oh, that
didn't
would
know
piss me
about
off.
I didn't know about it until I tried to log into my computer, and I couldn't because he was already logged in on it. And I was like, son of a bitch. Because he obviously didn't log out, and he didn't clean up the area, and I had already touched everything.
Yeah.
And I had touched everything like I could have thought it was a clean surface, and I could have touched my face, I could have touched my coffee mug, that sort of thing. Oh, my coffee mug was on my desk right there. So I had to go out and wash it
Yeah.
before I actually used it again. So all this stuff, and I called him out on it. I was like, he wasn't there. It was over our chat that we have in our office. I said, okay, heads up, everybody. If you do come in the office and happen to use somebody else's computer, sanitize the shit out of it
Yeah.
and log out of it before you leave, because that is how the shit transpired. I was pissed. I
won't even use the coffee pot at work anymore because people are gross. I don't even bring coffee in right now. I bring my water bottle in that I fill up at home. And then when that runs out, I take a hand sanitizer wipe down the sink in the break room, pour my water, wipe the bottle down, and go back to my desk and then hand sanitize.
Mhm.
I've hand sanitized so much that the skin is cracking on the back
Yeah.
of my
the,
hands,
the
and in between my
wrists or
fingers.
the knuckles and
Yeah, the knuckles
Yeah.
and then the writer's palm, and there's only so much lotion I can keep applying to my hands. There was a meme I
gotta
saw.
keep that for. I mean, never mind.
There was a meme I saw or a joke I saw, and it seems kind of accurate. I feel like I have washed my hands so much and put so much hand sanitizer on my hands that there's so many cleaning chemicals in my body that when I take a leak in the toilet, I should just be peeing cleaning supplies, and it cleans the toilet when I'm done. Because there's just been so much of that crap I've put into my body right now.
sounds
that
like
is
a
the thing-
scientific project for you.
Right? I'll need Dr. Toilet for that. But in all seriousness, one of the things I'm most looking forward to is when I work from home. I'm more in control of the situation. Anytime I leave my desk, I don't have to wash my hands multiple
Yeah.
times. And I can't wait when we get approval to work from home, which, knock on wood, we're supposed to be getting it in the next day or two. And then I don't have to worry as much unless I'm going to the store. And that will still be the anxiety point. And my guess is the fact that I'm not having to go to work is going to make the store anxiety that much worse.
Yeah, it does.
It will.
Yeah.
does.
Yeah,
Good.
that's my guess.
Because I've been going in once or twice a week,
Yeah.
And my wife is working. She works at a bank. Banks are still open. She runs a bank. She has to be out there. So she's dealing with this on a daily basis. And it's a little less threat inducing for her to go out because
Yeah.
of that. But
Yeah.
for me, I went to Lowe's this morning. I'll admit it. I was scared. I had the face mask on. I had gloves on. I had hand sanitizer ready in the car after I got out of there. And yeah, and the people in there, nobody was taking it seriously. None. there
Lowe's
was
has
no-
been a friggin' nightmare in this town too.
Uh,
People not taking it seriously. We had nice weather this weekend. People were taking like their whole families and going to Lowe's. I'm like,
so
you got to be kidding me. Like, I really need to pressure wash and stain my deck, but I was like,
Yeah.
the hell I'm going to Lowe's right now.
no kidding.
The
Right.
hell I'm doing that.
I had to go to Home Depot because I was doing a faucet switch that I've had sitting around for a while and I had to get something. Anyways, I was impressed. I actually had to go into the store. Overall, it was pretty good. With the line. The line moved fast. People were staggered. They had it nicely divided to like they can take in pallets of it wasn't plywood. It was what's the other one? OBF, OBS,
MDF,
MDF. No, the one that's like
particle board.
no,
The
it's
press
like
board?
It's like Almost.
MDF.
no, it's like it looks like a bunch of little pieces all together.
Particle board.
Particle
no,
board.
it's not particle board.
Press board or something like that.
It's probably called some weird Canadian thing.
OSB. OSB.
Okay.
OSB. That's what it was. I think it's OSB. No, I'm Googling. Yes, OSB. Or as the official term is, oriented strand board. But they had a whole bunch of that stacked out so that it forced you to walk, like when it was weaving, you were forced to be away from people. So I thought it was well done. And
Just for your edification,
Yeah.
Here in the United States,
Mhm.
most people call that particle board.
particle board is the really particle. I thought
Yeah.
particle board's the one that you hit water and it like foams up, or like, but you can't get it
No,
wet.
that's a different thing.
Okay, so you guys are backwards according to Wikipedia. So I stand with what I say because Wikipedia shows particle board as chipboard.
Okay.
Interesting. I had no idea. But yeah, here, let's paste it in the chat here. That's what I was talking about, and this is what we referred to as particle board. And that's how we refer to it up here. That's interesting. See, I love when there's differences like this.
Oh, excuse me.
Anyways, I was really impressed. And they actually also had sanitizer around, which is really unusual at retail stores up here right now.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate more. Those grocery stores have always had the hand sanitizer wipes at the front door by the carts and back by the meat section because I have been making use of them.
I'm wondering how they're keeping them in stock because you can't buy them anywhere.
I wonder how much of a back stock they have in some of these. When they run out, they're probably done. But like the hand sanitizer at work by our turnstiles keeps being replaced. And I'm like, eventually this is going to run out. Like we're talking 2 containers like this. We burn through about one of those a week and they keep replacing them. And I don't know when the end is in sight. Now, granted, less and less people are going into work because they're working on teleworking options, but it's interesting.
Yeah. My wife also also has to go to work, and I definitely get the sense that it's the same idea as you, SP, with your wife, is that different levels of anxiety out there in comparison.
And I think that gets to the normal clientele at Lowe's that was in there. It wasn't people that were in there for home improvement projects. It was actually like contractors and home handyman and stuff like that. They were there for work. So if they're doing it every day, if they're going out to Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards or True Value or wherever every day to get the stuff, and they have been for weeks,
Mhm.
that they're not concerned as much
Yeah.
as the rest of us who have been, quite frankly, scared
Mm-hmm.
into staying at home. And what do you do when you stay at home? You watch the news. And
Yep.
what is on the news? All the bad stuff that's happening. So we're in a different mind space than people that don't pay attention to that because they're continuing to work because they are essential personnel, but they're essential in that they're doing construction or they're fixing breakages, plumbing. That's still ongoing.
Yep. I
I'll
ended
tell
up
you-
switching my faucet this weekend actually because I picked it up a while ago and I was pretty sure I wanted it, but I wasn't 100%. So it sat around for a couple of months. I was still within the return period if I decided against it, but I decided to go through with it because it was motion activated
Mhm.
and with everything going on and the paranoia, I just became so freaking heightened of when I was using my faucet in the kitchen as I was prepping and doing other things of like how much you can really cross contaminate by turning on your faucet.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
why those faucets have taken off. I mean,
Yeah.
just in recent years, I keep seeing them advertised. It's just I never quite find the right deal on them, so I haven't cared a ton. But going back to SP's point on the news, one of the best things I've done for myself is set myself a limit for how much news and stuff I'm
Mhm.
going to consume. And I kid you not, the past 2 weekends, I have made a point to put my cell phone over there and don't go on Twitter, limit the Facebook, and just screw around on the internet and try and not think about it as much and have set times when you go, okay, now I can go look at this for a little bit, read it, go, oh crap, it looks like hell. Okay, I'm going to go back to my self-imposed quiet time.
yeah.
And it has made a world of difference for me mentally because I just needed that break. I realized because there was a time a couple weeks ago where I just consumed too much of it and it freaked me the hell out. And it took like a day for me to put myself back in the right headspace to make, okay, we're fine right now. We're doing these smart things. We're doing everything in our power to prevent it. At this point, if you get it, there's not much you could have done differently to prevent that. So just live, keep doing these things. And it's anxiety inducing. And I get it, folks. And for those of you guys that are watching live, things like that, we're always on the internet. Reach out to us. We're happy to talk through things like that.
Mhm.
Support systems are what you make of them.
Yeah, I got a woman that works for me that has a immunocompromised son, and she's a single mom. And every day we make sure we reach out, and whoever is actually going to the office, she lives relatively close to the office. Whoever's in the office is in charge of reaching out to her to make sure that she doesn't need anything. Now, she has a mother, she has a sister who has a family of her own, so she has a support system. She has an ex-husband who's not the greatest, but he's there. So it's not like she's alone and unafraid, but she's pretty much in the house alone with her son most of the time. And so it's those types of people you got to reach out for. If you have an elderly family member or just know somebody that's elderly, that a lot of them are shut in because, again, they've been scared to stay where they are. And in some cases, they're frightened of it because sometimes the nursing home or the assisted living center that they're in is more dangerous than not. So yeah, just reach out to people.
There was actually a really interesting thing I'd seen on Facebook that people had advocated as an idea, especially for your neighbors that are elderly, which is to work out a system with them. And you don't have to do it with direct communication, but a lot of it was putting a piece of paper in the front window. Green, everything's all right. Yellow, I might need some help with something. Red, something's wrong. So that you can keep an eye on your neighbors and what's going on around you, but maintain the proper distance. Because I don't mean this disparagingly, but for many older folks, technology is daunting and it's tough to work with. Putting a piece of colored paper in the window to indicate that there's an issue and be able to be like, oh God, so-and-so across the street's having a problem. Let me go find out what's going on. It's one way you can work with your community to make sure people are okay.
Guys, I got to go.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming on by. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your evening. And if you want to check out Better Podcasting, yeah, I know I made the joke and I just repeated SP's plug. I just thought it would be fun. But seriously, come by tomorrow. It would be great.
We did not pre-plan that either.
No, bye.